It has been a minute. And as a matter of fact, we've never done this before. Off the Edge is back. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Cameron Lynch, NFL linebacker for the Rams and the Tampa Bay Bucks. And we are so glad to bring you content every single week on the NFL. And we're going to be picking all the games. We're going to be highlighting games, talking a little bit about more than others, but we will pick every single game. So welcome in. If you remember us, it's been a minute. We did it last year. We're back doing it again this year. Cam, how you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic, my guy. It's always great when football season's back around. I'm excited to share with the fans, Jake, what we think about what's going to happen. Sometimes we have the crystal ball and we guess right? I know a few drafts ago, we guessed some proper drafts for like the Bears and whatnot, but I'm excited to predict some of these games, give some takeaways, and yeah, chat some ball with my guy.
Of course, man. Absolutely. So we'll cut right to the chase there. We got the Eagles taking on the Cowboys. Now, I'm sure you remember when this first got announced how annoyed people were because they were hoping that it was going to be the Commanders, the Rams, or the Bucks. And, well, Jerry was ultimately the one that they chose. Obviously, the viewership and everything, and the Cowboys, of course, early on in the year, before they fall off a cliff, this is the time to get them on TV. I'm kidding, of course. But Eagles, Cowboys, Cam, what is your score before we get into it?
Yeah, man, I got Eagles 34, Cowboys 24. 10-point game. The Eagles up on this one. Saquon, I think he's got ranked top player in the National Football League by his compadres, right? By his people, other NFL players. So I think Saquon's going to go off, Jake, and he's someone that, of course, the Cowboys have got to stop the run. They got to figure that out. And giving away Michael Parsons, I'm not sure if they'll be able to do that. So if I'm the Eagles, run the football as much as you can and get the ball out to your receivers and tie it in. So it'll be an exciting matchup. Jake, what do you think about the score?
I got 34, but I got 13 for the Cowboys. I think in this one, the Eagles, obviously defending Super Bowl champions, they got an absolutely stacked roster. I think Jalen Hurts is, obviously going to continue thriving. I like their roster entirely. I mean, just top to bottom. They lost a lot of guys this offseason, but, I just think you mentioned Saquon Barkley. I feel like they're going to be able to run the football, but I think the big thing with the Cowboys is that if this does become some sort of shootout, I think they have some weapons there. I mean, the addition of Pickens, I think, is definitely going to help them. But I'm looking at this defense of the Eagles, and I just think that the up front, you have a Jomo and Davis and Jalen Carter, and I just think they're going to blow this game up. So I think eventually, they'll split apart, and the Eagles will just kind of run roughshod at the Cowboys, and that's why I have 34-13.
I like it. I mean, it's the Cowboys. The Cowboys, I think, are like 3-1 against the Eagles so far. So that's like the only thing that they have working for them. Other than that, Jake, I think it's going to get pretty ugly.
Yeah. Hey, we'll see if Cowboys fans have something to watch. I think really the big issue with the Cowboys is you need a run game in this league. And they kind of told us, Jerry kind of told us they weren't really interested in doing that, right? They go out, they get Javonte Williams. They're essentially hoping that he can be what he was before the major knee injury. I don't believe so. He hasn't shown that. Then you go out and you get Miles Sanders, really not moving the needle there, my friend, And then you have, Jadon Blue, who has an issue fumbling the football, and Phil Maffa, from Clemson, who had a good preseason, he's on IR. So last year when they had a chance to go after a Derrick Henry and they opted not to, well, they're still paying for it. And of course, you can't forget about the fact that their 1,000-yard running back they let go, he goes over to Carolina. So he isn't helping them, anyway. So, it's not great over there for the Cowboys. I think the run game is going to be key and critical to win in week one, especially because you don't really know what you have week one. You have a bunch of what I believe to have. You don't know for sure. So it sounds to me like we're in agreement. The Cowboys are going down on Thursday, which is tomorrow, by the way. Football does kick off tomorrow. We love that. But also, football kicks off on Friday, as well. And that's
Every
the
day.
next game here. I don't know. It sounds like, I mean, you're watching us on YouTube. You can actually watch this game on YouTube. They're doing some huge little initiative here. Chiefs Chargers. What you got, Cam?
Yeah, was it out in Brazil?
Yeah,
Yeah,
nailed it.
yeah, that'd be a good game. And I did see that the teams that did play in Brazil these past few years ended up in the championship. So will the Chargers go to the chip? I'm not sure, but the Chiefs, I think so. I got them 23-20 over the Chargers. Reason being, international game, international travel, things can get a little bit spooky. But that 3 points, Taylor Swift's going to knock them over a bit. I think they'll have some bite to them. I got the Chiefs beating the Chargers. Jake, what about you?
Yeah, this is a tough one, Cam, because the Chargers, I think going into this game, I was going to pick them, but they lost Rashawn Slater for the year, one of the best left tackles in all of football, right after he got paid. So good that he got paid, obviously, and this is why it's good that he got paid. But unfortunately for the Chargers, now Joe Alt, who was incredible to have him at right tackle. Now he has to go over to left. We know he could play left in his days at Notre Dame, but how is he going to look in the NFL? And then now you have Trey Pipkins at right tackle, whereas, he used to be a good depth piece. So we're going to find out pretty quickly what the Chargers season is. They got a lot of weapons on the offensive side. I really like their defense. I think the Chiefs are going to win this game 24-20, Cam. I think, Patrick Mahomes and that offense, they don't have Rashee Rice to start the season, but I do think they have just enough to get over this one. I do expect a close game, but 24-20 is how I have it. I think they're just going to, play a cleaner brand of football and ultimately win this one in Brazil.
Yeah, and Jake, also want to call out some of the coordinators, right? Offensive coordinator for the Chiefs, Matt Nagy. He was at the Bears before. Steve Spagnuolo, defensive coordinator. He's a dog himself. And then going to the Chargers, because the reason why I'm calling out some of these coordinators, Jake, is because a lot of times people are like, hey, this player didn't do well, that player didn't do well. Well, no. Who was calling the plays? Who's cooking up the food? And so for the Chargers, Greg Roman, offensive coordinator, and Jesse Minter, defensive coordinator. So we'll see how they do. Like you mentioned, the Chargers being tested at their tackle positions, and those are probably one of the most important positions on the football field, because if you can't protect your quarterback, they're going to be in a lot of trouble there. But the run game for the Chargers, I think, is going to be the most important piece. They got a nice running back. What is he coming out of us? North Carolina, I think it was. And so I think they're going to have to be able to run the ball. Omarion Hampton have to run the ball really well for them to survive this football game. But I got the Chiefs winning by 3.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is going to be that close game. I think the offensive line of the Chiefs, that is really the thing that I'm most interested to watch. You got Josh Simmons, who was injured when they drafted him. He's going to be their left tackle. And then you have Kingsley Suamatea, who did not play last year. He's going to be their left guard. You got two ballers there in Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, who are just going to throw you out the club. And then you got Jawan Taylor, who's the king of the offsides that doesn't get called. So, but no, all jokes aside, I mean, the offensive line, this is big. If Kansas City shows like, hey, they hit it big again, I think Simmons is an outstanding talent. Can't believe they got him at the end of the first round. We're going to see what ends up happening there. But as far as the Chargers go, they kind of have it all. They added Becton at right guard. We saw what he meant for the Eagles. And then, of course, Zion Johnson ends up improving. So I do really like what I've seen from both teams. I just think losing Rashawn Slater, unfortunately, is going to weaken what was supposed to be a strong offensive line. The question is, how much is it weakened? How good can Trey Pipkins be? If you can keep Justin Herbert upright, he's good enough to win you a game. And shout out to Keenan Allen, who is back with the Chargers. So love that. Najee Harris and Omarion Hampton, a very interesting duo. I think they're very similar in their own regard. But nonetheless, I have 24-20 Chiefs.
And Najee, I know he had like an issue with like a firecracker incident or something like that. So it looks like he's going to be good to go. And Jake, the firecracker thing, we probably should put a pause on that, right? Because I played with JPP, Jason Pierre-Paul, and he had an issue with the firecracker thing. And it's like, as an NFL player, I think the note should be for every player. It's like, hey, July 4th is coming. stay away from the fireworks. Like, let somebody else do the fireworks. You stay back. But yeah, Najee Harris, that run game, like Amorion Hampton, that's going to be a strong run game, Jake. And so that's why the game is going to be so close, because I think they're going to have a lot of guys to make things happen. Like you said, Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnston. I know he got hurt against the Rams, I think, first series of that preseason game. So hopefully he's back from that concussion and he actually makes some plays against the Chiefs. So it'll be a good game.
Yeah, no, that'll be a fun one. I think that'll be a lot better than the opening kickoff on Thursday. But then we move on to Sunday. And the first game that we're going to talk about is a team featuring a team that you were on in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a team I'm very high on, by the way. And I think they're going to win this game against the Atlanta Falcons 27-14.
Ooh, okay. Got a nice little blowout. I got Buccaneers 27. I got Falcons 21. The Falcons 21. The Buccaneers, I think Baker Mayfield's the guy. You've seen him on the Popeyes commercials, right? He's crushed it. He's figuring it out. The Buccaneers have found their franchise quarterback. And so Baker Mayfield going to be able to find his receivers, find his running backs, and make some plays. Emeka Egbuka, Jake, Ohio State guy. He's a sleeper. He's a sleeper. Of course, you got Mike Evans about to catch for 1,000 yards. I know Chris Godwin's a little hurt, and he'll be back, I think, in a month or so, and Tristan Wirfs. But the Buccaneers are looking good with Bucky Irvin in the backfield and that offensive line. Luke Getke, I believe they signed him for like $40 million just recently. So, yeah, it's going to be looking good for the Buccaneers. I'm happy for the guys.
Yeah, the Godke signing was huge for them to get that done before the season, but I look at this team and I just see really all across the board, Cam, they're just so well built, you know. If there's one thing you want to nitpick, maybe the secondary is not as strong as you know in years past, and you know, the linebacker depth is a little bit of a question mark, but you know, through and through, I really like a lot of what they did, and you know, I think that offense is just disgusting. I mean, you got Baker, you got, like you mentioned, Bucky the Buck. You got Mike Evans. I don't know when we'll see Chris Godwin, but obviously the fact that he's back is crazy. Emeka Egbuka is going to be huge. You know, obviously, you know, Jalen McMillan went on IR, but, you know, you still have a Tez Johnson, an undrafted guy who a lot of people expected to be drafted. Rashad White can come in. There's a lot of guys.
Tez Johnson, the backflip king. He had a crazy backflip in the preseason. That looked pretty sick.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then the offensive line, I mean, you know, you got one of the best left tackles in all football in Tristan Wirfs, right? So Godke got signed, Malk, Barton, and Bredesen. A lot of protection there for Baker Mayfield. But in addition to that, you look at the defense, and I mean, they got some guys like a Jamel Dean, you know, and Antoine Winfield Jr. You look at the year that Yaya Diaby had last year. I mean, they have some guys that can really stand out. So this Buccaneers team is going to be a hard out. I think that they're 100% going to make the playoffs, and it starts on Sunday with a win over the Falcons. The Falcons, on the other hand, I like some of the Falcons. Penix, I don't know if is he legit? Is he not legit? We're going to find out. Can he stay healthy? We're also going to find that out because those were his issues in college. But the running backs look great. I think the wide receivers are a little weak. You have Drake London. I think he's an absolute stud, but I felt like they should have added more to that room. What is Kyle Pitts? We're going to find out. The offensive line, though, Cam, this is the big one. And I'm going to keep pointing to the offensive line because early on in week one, the offensive line is everything, right? Yeah. Look, it really sucks to see them lose a Caleb McGarry. And they also lost Drew Dahlman in the offseason. Ryan Newsel and Michael Jarrell, I'm not feeling great about, Cam. They got two gaping holes on the offensive line until I'm proven otherwise. So I just think that's a huge opportunity. What Diaby did last year and, some of the guys up front with Tampa, I think they're going to tee off on that. And then I think, while you look at the Falcons and they added guys on the defensive side, they're relying on some young players. They're relying on Billy Bowman. They're relying on Xavier Watts. They're relying on Jalen Walker, Ruka Rororo. There's a lot of young players that they're counting on to step up right away. And I think the defense could be fun, and they got some pieces, but Tampa looks ready. They look ready.
And we talk about this, the coaches. What does that look like? The coordinators. Raheem Morris, I think it's like his second or third year at the Falcons. I think he was at the Buccaneers at one point in his career. And so this is a division matchup, right? The Buccaneers and the Falcons. And so it's going to be a real battle. They're going to see each other twice this year to kick off the season. It's even better, a little bit more spicy. And this is going to determine the division, Jake, because at the end of the day, NFC South, the Buccaneers have the NFC South lock. They've been winning it for the past 4 to 5 years. They're making the playoffs. And so this game is going to decide who owns the NFC South. You got at the coordinator positions for the Falcons, Zach Robinson, and then you got Jeff O'Brien, who was at the Jets. He was the interim head coach for a little bit there. And so the defense, like you mentioned, Jake, is going to look strong. My question is, will they be able to keep Michael Penix Jr. upright? Like you mentioned about, you mentioned about another quarterback and their offensive line keeping him upright. That question goes for this team as well. You mentioned that the center leaving, Ryan Newsel being there now. Penix is a second-year quarterback, and having a new center to that offense is going to be a little challenging. And so they're going to play at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Nice crowd in there, no heat. So if they're playing in Tampa, Jake, I think the score would be way different than what we called it, but they're going to be in some nice weather. It's going to be good there. But, I can see Bijan Robinson going off, Jake. Kyle Pitts, he's going to have to figure this thing out. It's like his fourth year, I believe, at the Falcons. And so, hey, do the Falcons keep him and continue with Michael Pitts, or do they trade him away? What does that look like? But this game is going to be a good deciding game for this division. Excited.
Yeah, it's a huge game for the division. Where are the Falcons? We're going to find out. I think we have a good idea of where Tampa is, but hey, it's the NFL. So just when you think you know everything, you know nothing. That's the way it works. Moving on to the next game, we're not going to talk too much about it, but the Bengals and the Browns, I'll be honest, I think the Browns are going to be the worst team in the NFL this year. I just picked every single game, and I just don't see a pathway for them. I got the Bengals in this one, 30-13. Joe Flacco, really respect the guy, but I don't respect an organization that's willing to go into the season starting him when you have the talent all around that you have. I think the Browns have a good roster, but I don't think they care to win too many games up top. And so for that reason, I think the Bengals, who have a lot of talent and do care, are going to go in and they're going to win this game.
Yeah, I like that, Jake. I got Bengals 34, Browns, I'm going to go 14. Like you mentioned, the Browns, Joe Flacco's going to do the best he can. The Bengals are going to have to get after him, right? They re-signed Trey Hendrickson, so good for them. I think he's going to show, hey, not only do I need this upgrade, but I need a new contract. If it's not from you all, it's going to be from another team. Similar to the Michael Parsons trade, right? He has to get his money, and he was a leading sack leader in the NFL last year. So Trey Hendrickson getting re-signed, I think he's going to eat that game.
Yeah, no, I like that. I think the Bengals, I like that they added Demetrius Knight in the draft, showing that they still care about the defense. They also added Shamar Stewart. And then that offensive line, I mean, really they're relying on, Lucas Patrick and Dylan Fairchild to, be able to help them because they got some guys there. Obviously, Amarius Mims they draft and Orlando Brown, and they got plenty of weapons. And, Chase Brown is going to be a big one to look out for. So we'll move on, though, to the next game here. And this one's interesting. It's the Indianapolis Colts hosting the Miami Dolphins. And really, it's two teams, after further review, I think they're very similar, and I think they're very different. It's very odd. Both mobile quarterbacks, both can sling it. I actually am a lot higher on Daniel Jones on the consensus, and the reason being is, you talk about coordinators, you talk about coaches. I think he's a good fit with Shane Steichen. I do. So I'm really curious to see what Daniel Jones can do. He's got plenty of weapons. He's got one of the better offensive lines in the league. So when you look at the offense that the Colts have, I mean, if he is even average, they're going to score a lot of points. You got Jonathan Taylor you can tote the rock with, right? They added DJ Giddens out of Kansas State. There's some weapons there, but then the defensive side of the ball is a little different. They lost some guys. They added some guys. A Charvarius Ward gets added in the offseason. Xavier Howard gets added. So, that's interesting. Up front is pretty much, it's similar. I mean, they did lose, some guys there, but Latu and Kwity Paye are going to be asked to do a lot. Obviously your man, Zaire Franklin in the middle of the defense is going to be asked to do a lot. I'm going to take the Colts in this one. I got them 23-17 over Miami. I think Miami, and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, but Teron Armstead retiring, that's a huge, huge loss right before the year. Patrick Paul is going to be their left tackle, and he didn't look so great last year. So I'm going to assume he'll probably figure it out. I don't believe he figures it out in week 1.
Yeah, I got the Colts 19, Dolphins 16. The reason why the game's gonna be so close because Dolphins have Tyreek Hill, right? Devon A-Chain, I think he's going to be hurt for this game. I'm not sure if they're going to have him, but they still have Tyreek Hill, and he's someone to reckon with at all times. So I think that's important. The Colts, like you mentioned, Jake, they have on the defensive side Zaire Franklin. Actually saw him this past weekend at the Syracuse-Tennessee game, and so it's going to be cool to see him hopefully lead the league in tackles again. The fact that he's done it in these past 3 years is a lot to say about his character, about what he's put into the game, and so he's going on his 8th year. He's doing really well. And then not only under Shane Steichen does he have a Pro Bowler, an All-Star, and Zaire Franklin, but Quentin Nelson, like you mentioned, their offensive line, pretty strong offensive line. I know Daniel Jones got the starting job over Anthony Richardson, who got hurt in the preseason. But Daniel Jones, he's been in an organization in the New York Giants where he didn't find much success. Well, hopefully with the Colts, he will find that success. And I know we discuss sometimes the coordinators and what that looks like. And so Jim Cooter, the offensive coordinator for the Colts, in his second year, and then Lou Anarumo, Jay, coming from the Bengals, which is going to be a big move for the Colts. And that's why I think they win this game too, Jake, is because they have a strong defensive coordinator that's going to hold it down and find a way to stop Tyreek Hill. So I think that's a big plus. And then we talked about Quentin Nelson, and then Jake, we also mentioned another All-Star in Jonathan Taylor. I mean, he was hurt a lot of last year. I remember the year before that, though, he was the guy. He was the one. And so hopefully we'll see that this year. Hopefully he's fully healthy, ready to rock and roll, giving the Colts a dub over the Dolphins.
I like it, Cam. And what I'll say is this. The biggest, I make all sorts of notes on teams, throughout the offseason. And one thing I see is pass rush when it comes to the Dolphins. This is going to be a huge test for Daniel Jones to stay calm, cool, collected in the pocket. You have one of the best offensive lines in the league. You have weapons, okay? There's no excuse because if they get to Daniel Jones, it's because he's holding on the ball too long and he's not, moving around the pocket. And at that point, he could get benched if that's what we see this year. But I have some faith in him in this system. I just think when you got Chop Robinson and Zach Seiler and Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips, I mean, there are a lot of guys. They're going to go after him. They are. I will say, though, the secondary, and this is what presents the opportunity for a Daniel Jones, I think the secondary you can throw on. I really do. This is not one of the stronger secondaries that we've seen from the Miami Dolphins. They picked up one of the Colts guys that they cut, Juju Brents. Rasul Douglas is there, but Jack Jones, Storm Duck, they're relying on. They let go of Jalen Ramsey. I don't really love this secondary at all. And I know they have some injuries too, but I don't really know what they were doing aside from Minkah Fitzpatrick. But yeah, I think it's an opportunity for Daniel Jones to test down the field. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But we both have the Colts. We both have the Bengals. We both have Tampa. We both have Kansas City. I wonder if we're going to eventually go off the path. I would imagine we do, but it won't be here. Arizona heads to the Big Easy to play the Saints. I think this is a no-brainer for me. I'm going to go with Arizona. Now, don't get me wrong, okay? I think that when you look at the Saints, they got a really good roster, but Spencer Rattler's starting for them. It's another tale of the Browns. Like, do you really care to win? It's kind of this assumption that they're tanking, but they got a really good bunch of guys in that room on both sides of the football. I like their offensive line. I actually liked Rattler coming out. I'm not out on him. I just am out on him as a starter right now. I don't know if he's ready for that.
He's a good backup, Jake. Yeah. As a starter, I'm not sure. I think he might get rocked a little bit. And when it comes to the Cardinals, Jake, when it comes to the NFC West, what does that look like for them? They've been the third to fourth pretty much past 10 years or so. So it's about time for them to step up and make some plays. So I got them 31-13 over the Saints. Jake, I'm not going to lie. Since Sean Payton left the Saints, they've been on a downhill trajectory, similar to the Patriots, right? Bill Belichick leaving there, Tom Brady leaving there. Things have not been the same. So it's a whole new ball game with them. But I got the Cardinals going up against them 31-13. Kyler Murray is going to have to figure out and make it happen. Marvin Harrison Jr., I think, is going to step up. I know he put a lot of weight on recently, so hopefully he can step in and make some plays. But I got the Cardinals winning over the Saints. Jake, what was your score prediction?
Yeah, so that one, I just shave a touchdown from yours. I got 24-13. This would be the first opening week win for the Cardinals since 2021 when they went 7-0. So last time they won the first game, things went well for the Cardinals. They're a team that I have going above 500 this year. So we'll see what ends up happening. But yeah, I agree with you there. And I think really it just comes down to Spencer Rattler. I mean, if the Saints were starting, say, Derek Carr, I think they would win this game. I think they have a good roster. I really do. So it is interesting. Like at some point or another, are they going to be like, maybe they trade for a quarterback in the season, be like, realize what we have. You don't want to go through a full season. Or are they committed to this? We're going to find out. And we're also going to find out who Spencer Rattler is, because this is a tough test. But we did skip over one of the games. The Patriots and Raiders. You actually reminded me because you started talking about the Patriots. Cam, I am happy to tell you I have my sleeper team for the 2025 season. Last year, I picked the Commanders. That was my team. In the NFC. The AFC, I had the Titans. That didn't go well. This year, it's the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots are going to go to the playoffs. And they are going to be a force. I really believe they're going to be a force upcoming. And I think Vrabel was such a great hire. Yeah. They're ready to turn this thing around. You had mentioned they've kind of fallen off. Well, I think they start their ascension back. I really like what I saw roster-wise. I have them winning this game 24-20, and I like what the Raiders did. I just picked every game, and I kind of didn't think the Raiders would have that great of a season, but I liked them more than the record I gave them, if that makes any sense. So looking at the Patriots, I think they have a really good-looking offense. Okay, just like through and through, I really like what they did. I love the running back room. I think it's one of the best in the NFL. You got Ramondre Stevenson. You got Travion Henderson, Antonio Gibson. That is a great running back room. You got... We've talked about before, you're only as good as your backup quarterback. Well, our old friend Joshua Dobbs is behind Drake May, so I like that. I like the receivers. I like having Stephon Diggs. I like having Kyle Williams and Demario Douglas. I like their tight end room. Their offensive line looks really good. Obviously, they're relying on a rookie at left tackle, so we'll see how Will Campbell does, and Jarrett Wilson at left guard, but I like what they did, and then all around the defense, they just have physicality left and right. They're really high on Del Pettis, who won the starting safety job over Kyle Duggar, who's a Pro Bowler. So they've turned over a new leaf. You can see the guys that they added. Vrabel wants some moxie. He wants some fire. He wants some physicality. It's why you see guys like Robert Spillane on here. It's why you see guys like, Milton Williams they went out to get from the Eagles. Yeah. I'm telling you right now.
In the bag, too.
Yeah. I'm telling you right now, Cam, I would not want to play this Patriots team when they start rolling, because I think it's going to start. I think it's going to start early, and I think they get the win 24-20 over the Raiders.
Yeah, the Patriots are looking spooky, Jake. I agree. I got them Patriots 23-16 over the Raiders. And when you think about it, you mentioned some of the running backs for the Patriots. And I think that's the biggest piece. Ramondre Stevenson, I remember you gloating about him previously in maybe the past 2 years or so, just the way he's been running the football kind of under the radar, but a great running back. And then Travion Henderson, I mean, he's taking it back. Kick returns, Jake. He's running the ball extremely well. I mean, he had knocked a few people out. I have a lot of friends that are Pats fans, and I'm like, hey, this guy Travion Henderson just knocked out one of the defensive backs, I think, in the preseason game, and they took him out immediately. They were like, yo, you made the squad. You're good to go. Don't you worry. And so when it comes to New England, I think you're mentioning Vrabel, he has a chance to turn this thing around. And I think that's going to be really advantageous, because I think when Patriots are good, I think football is good. And so it's going to be really, really awesome to see them play. And then we talk about the Raiders with Pete Carroll and what they have going on there. I like to see them kind of revamping, and I love to see the Raiders revamp, and I want to see the Browns do the same thing, because the Raiders have always been historically bad, and the Browns have been as well. And I think Pete Carroll's going to add some fire. I know Antonio Pierce was there, and he did a decent job with the team as things kind of changed hands. But I do believe Pete Carroll will be the savior for that team. And I think some of the messages that he sends when he recruits the players, he's like, yeah, my winning record is this. So like, feel free to come on through and make things happen. So Geno Smith, leading that team, I think, is really impressive. I think Aiden O'Connell, he went down, unfortunately, as their backup. And so the backup quarterback, like you mentioned, the team is only as good as their backup quarterback, because at any point he could be leading that franchise. And you think about the Rams and Jimmy G backing up Matthew Stafford, we feel good about that. But when it comes to the Raiders, they're going to have to figure that out. And I also want to talk about this too. Tom Brady talked about it when he talked about selecting players in the draft, and he mentioned, like, I want my quarterbacks to be a team player, right? I want to be running. He said he ran with his offensive lineman down to the end zone every time he scored and pumped his fist. And I think going back to the Patriots piece, Vrabel talks about doing the same thing. I don't know if you remember, but during the training camps, Drake May, I think, threw a touchdown. He was kind of chilling back where the coaches are, and Vrabel's like, bro, you need to go run and celebrate with your team. And so I love that culture. I love that thought process that Tom Brady talked about, and that could be a reason why they didn't draft Shador, because, sometimes he wants to show the watch, sometimes he wants to gloat a little bit. And so just the culture that's going to the Patriots, I think that's really cool, and Vrabel leading the way is really awesome to see. But I have them beating the Raiders as well.
Yeah, and I like what the Raiders did, Cam. I like Geno Smith. I think he gives you a chance to win any game. He's a good quarterback in this league. Ashton Genty is going to be fun to watch. I love Jacoby Myers. They added Dante Thornton Jr., somebody who really made waves in camp. Jack Besh. Amari Cooper, another return. Yeah. Cooper back with the Raiders. Funny how many returns there were. There's been a lot of talk about Trey Tucker, somebody that they really like, but I think it's going to be a fascinating thing with this Raiders team, because it feels like they don't have a ton of guys in the trenches. And that whole, we're not going to get too much into it, but the Christian Wilkins thing, like not having him anymore in that defensive front, it does look kind of weaker, I would say. And then in addition to that, that secondary is a lot of unproven talent. I mean, don't get me wrong, Darian Porter is somebody that I'm excited to see, especially with the tutelage of Pete Carroll. He looks like a Legion of Boom type of corner, so we'll probably get to see that. But it just seems like there's a lot of question marks. And the right tackle, and keep this in mind, because right tackle, they got DJ Glaze there. He gave up over 50 pressures last year, Cam. Mm-hmm. That's just, he's going to get Geno killed if he doesn't get better at that. So I do think, obviously, Brock Bowers is going to be huge for this team as well. I think this is kind of a wait-and-see team. Pete Carroll is going to have this team competitive. I don't know if competitive leads to 9-10 wins. I could tell you it doesn't lead to them beating the Patriots in this one.
And then Robert Spillane, like you mentioned, he's playing with the Patriots. Well, he was just over at the Raiders, and so he's going to be able to give his guys some tips and tricks on how to beat the Raiders. But he's playing against Pete Carroll. He's not playing against Antonio Pierce, and so hopefully there'll be some change up when it comes to him taking over the helm. But it looks good. I think the Raiders and the Patriots need some love and need some revamping, and so it's really good to see that they both have new head coaches, and that they're going to look to make it happen. But I do have the Patriots winning this game.
Yeah, and it's funny. We move on to the Jets-Steelers game taken at MetLife here. I think it's really fascinating to me, because the way predictions work for a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers, for a team like the LA Rams, is when you're dealing with a older quarterback, right? Really, you kind of have to go all in on what you think is going to happen. Are they going to stay upright the whole year? And if so, what does that give you? But if they aren't, then it's kind of like you probably don't think they're going to do that well. Well, with the Pittsburgh Steelers, I do think Aaron Rodgers is going to stay upright. I do think this is a really good football team from top to bottom. I think they've, really crafted a smart football team, a lot of veterans. You look at, adding a Jalen Ramsey to the mix, right? It's very veteran heavy, Cam, on that defensive side. And I think that coincides well with like a Peyton Wilson, kind of the younger guys they're only going to get better because they're around guys like an Alex Highsmith, a TJ Watt, a Cam Hayward, right? So that's my thing, is I actually really like the way this is crafted. I think the offensive line should be much better. My one concern is Broderick Jones really struggled last year, gave up 10 sacks. He needs to improve. If he does, and he's, say, half as better as he was last year, this is going to be a really good offensive line. You got to keep Aaron Rodgers upright. But I'm really kind of interested in how this DK Metcalf thing's going to shake out, how a Roman Wilson is going to shake out. They don't have a ton of wide receiver weapons, but I just kept coming back to this team and saying, you know what? The signing of Jaylen Warren I thought was really good. I like Caleb Johnson. I like the depth of this team. And again, you added a guy like Darius Slay to go with a Jalen Ramsey and a Joey Porter Jr. I don't know, man. This is going to be a tough one. I'm going to take the Steelers, and of course, obviously, Aaron Rodgers returns home, like the NFL didn't plan that or anything. But I'm going to take, Aaron Rodgers here and the Steelers over the Jets in his reunion, or return rather, 30-16. I really like what I see with the Steelers. The Jets, I actually don't like at all. I'm really kind of down on them, and I was surprised. I wanted to like them this year. I didn't like replacing a DJ Reed with Brandon Stevens. I think that's a downgrade there. I think, honestly, I'm not really sold on their coach either, but Michael Clemens is playing over Jermaine Johnson, it sounds like. I don't like that. And then the offensive line, they just lost. I don't know if you saw this. They lost Elijah Vera-Tucker quite literally right before we went live. Like, it just happened. They just announced him out for the year recently. So you look at, like, Josh Reynolds, I like him, but he's your wide receiver too. I just don't really love this team. I like Justin Fields, but I don't feel like he's got plenty of weapons like I was hoping for.
Yeah, I mean, what I will say, Jake, I'm surprised or excited about for the Jets is just Aaron Glenn leading that team. I think that's really cool to see. He played for the Jets before. He's going to coach there, so that's going to be awesome. Like you mentioned on the Steelers side, Aaron Rodgers is a little bit older. Father time is coming into play, and so what does this look like? It's his final season. He has some great receivers in DK Metcalf, so it's going to be nice to see just the running back room, Jake. I know they got rid of Najee Harris and sent him over to the Chargers, but Caleb Johnson, Jaylen Warren, we like it, right? Kenneth Gainwell, we like the running back room. There's running backs with experience there. And then also the Steelers always make the playoffs, but that's just the biggest question for me, is just the running back room. Are they going to be able to tote the rock? Can they spell Aaron Rodgers if he's tired of throwing that football, if he's tired of scrambling? One thing I do know from experience is when playing, Jaylen Warren can pass block. He can pass block. He can protect. So that's going to be a big deal. But going back to the Jets, what does this look like? Sauce Gardner, is he going to have the year that we've seen him have these past 2 years? I know his rookie year got Rookie of the Year or Rookie Defensive Player of the Year. And so is he going to be that same player? What does that look like? Justin Fields coming from the Steelers. It's going to be a good matchup, right? There's some good drama, some good storylines within this. They pretty much swap quarterback to Justin Fields and Aaron Rodgers. And so is that going to drive them to score more points? What does that look like? Are they going to force more passes than they normally do, right? One thing I will say, I think Justin Fields is going to have a long day with TJ Watt, right, running after him. And so they're going to have to really figure that out. You mentioned Highsmith getting after him, and then Cameron Hayward in the front. So Steelers, I got them winning 24-13 over the Jets. For some reason, the Jets just have tough times winning football games. And so I got the Steelers on this one, 24-13.
So we move on to Washington, in Washington, D.C., not, Washington State. But Washington, D.C., we got the Commanders taking on the Giants. I feel like there's a lot of people that are trying to buy into this Giants team because this division, the winner never repeats, and it always seems like it's the same. So obviously there's like a hope, like, oh yeah, I have the Commanders winning 26-16. I think when it comes to the Giants, I'm really not that high on Russell Wilson. I'm not. He doesn't really move the needle for me. My gut kind of tells me he's going to get benched for Jackson Dart at some point. Well, I'm also not high on.
You talking about Mr. Unlimited getting benched?
Yeah, he'll get benched. He'll get benched. But here's the deal. I think they'll be better. The Giants will probably be better than the Cowboys because Dable is a way better coach than Schottenheimer. But it's interesting because the Commanders, I'm not feeling as good as I wanted to feel, Cam. When you look at this team, I mean, right now, wide receivers are kind of weak. I'm also not very high on, I'm not high on Deebo Samuel, as you know. And I don't know. And then running back is kind of a question mark here, because you trade away Brian Robinson, and it's like, I'm not really sure what you're trying to accomplish. I know, Bill Krosky-Merritt, who everybody's talking about, he doesn't sound like he's going to start. Sounds like it's going to be Austin Eckler. Could be wrong there. The offensive line's improved, but how much did it improve, right? Defense still looks great. Dan Quinn, going to have those guys ready. Commanders are interesting. Like, I feel like they could have taken a bigger step in year 2. It doesn't feel like they improved the roster that much. And then the Giants, they improved, but I don't love the weapons. I mean, Malik Neighbors is going to be one of the better receivers in football this year. I think he leads the league in receiving, personally, receiving yards. The defensive line feels a little weak to me. The offensive line is still a concern. I don't love Russell Wilson. I think the offensive line, though, my biggest concern here is that, obviously Andrew Thomas is really good. I don't love John Runyon. I don't like Greg Van Roten, and I don't love Jermaine Illuminor. It's just kind of a team that will probably compete. I'm higher on Tyrone Tracy Jr. than most people are, although I know a lot of people want Cam Scatterbo to play. But yeah, I think Washington's a better team. They're at home, so I'll take them to win by 10.
Yeah. Okay. I got Commanders 26 and I got the Giants 21. Reason why I say 21 is because Russell Wilson, even though he's at the latter end of his career, he knows that that Dart is right behind him. He's licking his chops to get on the playing field. So I think we'll see the best Russell Wilson that we've seen. And don't forget, like, Jameis Winston is sitting there ready to rock and roll. And so I think that the pressure is going to produce a lot of great competition. And so I think the game's going to be a little bit closer than we think it is. You mentioned the Giants' defensive line not being great. Maybe that their run game may not be as great, right? I know Dexter Lawrence, Sexy Dexy back there. He can stop some of that run. But what I'm excited to see is what Abdul Carter and Brian Burns are going to do, right? And Bobby Okereke from the Colts. But I think those guys have a chance to maybe lead the NFL in sacks collectively, if it's not for the Rams, right? I know the Rams are up there when it comes to just leading in sacks. I think the Steelers too, but that Giants defensive line, I'm curious to see what Abdul Carter does. I know it's his first year. He's a rookie. They're talking about him being a walking Hall of Famer already. He has to stay healthy. I think that's the key to things, right? It's like you can be everything if you want to be, but if you're hurt, it's hard to do that. And so I think Abdul Carter, hopefully he has like a similar career that Puka Nacua had, but I know Puka Nacua is a receiver, but hopefully Abdul Carter has that type of flash on the defensive side as a rookie. And so like you mentioned, on the offensive side for the Giants, Malik Neighbors, I'm excited to see what he does. It's his second year. I saw him mention in some interviews that Russell Wilson is showing him different tricks of the trade, right? He's introducing them to his stretch coach, and his financial advisor, just different things to make him an all-around better professional. And so I think that Giants team is getting better by getting some of that veteran presence on that football team. And then you talk about the Commanders. I mean, Jaden Daniels, like, after being the offensive rookie of the year, what is he going to do this year, my guy? Like, I'm excited to see kind of what he puts on tape. Deebo Samuel, people have been talking mess. I know he's been coming up to training camp overweight. What does that look like? Laramie Tunsil, he got in trouble when he got drafted for that smoke mask, whatever that is, but he's one of the better left tackles in the league. So I think that's really cool. Then don't forget, on the other side, you got Bobby Wagner playing defense. And so whenever you got Bobby on your team, the leadership, it goes up a couple notches. And so Washington football team, the Commanders, man, I got them 26-20. 21 over the Giants, but I think it'll be a decent matchup. It'll be decent.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And to clarify, you're absolutely right. The interior is what I was talking about, the Giants. Obviously, you got all sorts of guys, Kayvon Thibodeau as well, to go with Brian Burns and Abdul Carter and Golston. They also have Darius Alexander in the interior as well, who I love. So maybe I'm being a little hard on them, but I got the Commanders as well. And then we move on to the Jaguars-Panthers, which I think is going to be an incredibly close game. I think it's a tough one to choose. I'm going to lean the home team on this one. I'm going to go with Duval. Jacksonville, give me them 23-21. I like the Panthers this year. I don't love them, though. Okay, I see potential, but I still see a weaker secondary. I see that they beefed it up front, going out and getting Bobby Brown to go with an Ashawn Robinson. And I love that. I love that they did that. But at the same time, they don't have a closer as like an edge defender. You know what I mean? Like Jacksonville, you need to end the game. Well, Josh Hines Allen is going to end the game. Right. I don't feel like Carolina has that. And unfortunately, you really need a closer when you're in all of these close games that I do believe the Panthers are going to be in. And another thing I'll say, I don't know why, for the life of me, I don't get it, why they just gave away Adam Thielen. It just doesn't make sense to me. This wide receiver room is pretty mid right now. They need Jalen Coker back. He's currently injured. He's going to miss the first 4 games of the year. I think that was a mistake, but I'm excited to see, who is Bryce Young, right? Yeah. I'm excited to see that. And then Trevor Lawrence, it's put up or shut up time, man. I've heard that you are a generational talent for 5 years. It's time to actually show it. You have an offensive coordinator to do that, or head coach to do that in Liam Cohen. Everything that he did in Tampa last year, there is quite literally zero excuse. I think the Jaguars have a good roster, loaded with weapons. Offensive line should be improved. The defense has a lot of talent. It's time, man. Basically, they're going to go as far as he takes them, but I do think he takes them to a Week 1 win.
Okay, I agree. I got Jaguars 27, Panthers 21. And like you mentioned with Trevor Lawrence, Liam Cohen, what does that look like? Liam Cohen made Baker Mayfield the franchise quarterback of the Buccaneers. Used to be the Bad News Bucks. Brady came. Was there going to be drop off? Of course there's drop off, but Baker Mayfield's doing a great job of leading that organization. The question is, can Liam do the same thing for Trevor Lawrence? Trevor Lawrence didn't really lose in high school, Jake, didn't lose in college. And so he gets to the pros and he's finding issues. And is that because the GM, the ownership, what does that look like, right? He's kind of having a Browns problem, but they have a new GM in place, which is great, changing things around. When they ended up drafting really high in the draft, right? They traded from being like 8th or 10th up to number 2. And so you getting Travis Hunter, what is that going to look like? Are we going to see him play both ways? Is he going to lock down some of the Panthers receivers and Leggett, or is he going to score touchdowns on some of those DBs? I'm not sure, but they're going to have to figure that out in that game plan. What I would like to not see, Jake, is Travis Hunter be overloaded when it comes to his play count and him not be available for the rest of the season. Because that's what a lot of these guys are saying. They're like, hey, you can play both ways, but can you do it at a high clip? Can you stay healthy throughout the rest of the season? Jake, he's been playing in Jacksonville, Florida, or doing training camp, and it's hot out there. Now, at the end of the day, I played in Tampa. That heat wears on you, and it's even hotter in Jacksonville than it is Tampa. So it wears on you. There's a lot that's going on. So I'm curious to see kind of how Travis Hunter fares throughout the season, but I had them beating the Panthers. And Jake, the Panthers might win 5 to 6 games this year. I'm not sure. I know Andy Dalton's backing up Bryce Young, but you're right? Who is Bryce Young? What is he made of? And he has a great running back in Chuba. So hopefully they can get the running game going. But I have the Jaguars winning 27-21 over the Panthers.
I like it. So we've agreed on everything so far, it appears. So we're probably gonna agree on this one. Denver Broncos taking on the Titans. We'll keep this one quick. I think Denver is gonna blow them out. 33-17. Here's the thing. I really, really believe Cam Ward can turn this team around. I think they have a good defense. Tajay Spears' injury is big, but they got weapons. I don't understand for the life of me why they paid Dan Moore to be their left tackle. Guy gave up 12 sacks last year, over 40 pressures with the Steelers. The Steelers are better moving on from him, so I don't really understand why you gave him $20 million a year. I just don't get it. But aside from that, they added Zeitler. He'll help in the run game. He was really good for the Lions last year. The defense looks really good on paper. This can be a sleeper team. It just depends on how far does Cam Ward go in this first year. Are we talking Jaden Daniels? Probably not, right? But if he can be a good quarterback, or even if he's average, I think they have a shot to steal some games. If he's a good quarterback, they have a shot to maybe win 8 or 9 games and be a little bit of a sleeper there. Probably not a team you want to face later on the year. I think a lot of things will be sorted out. That said, Denver is one of the best teams in the league, I think, going into the season. I think this is a nightmare matchup for a rookie quarterback. The offense is really good. Obviously, Denver has one of the best offensive lines in the league. No one talks about for whatever reason. Evan Ingram was a great pickup. Also made our cover for the thumbnail. But I really like all of the weapons there. J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey. Bo Nix is basically going to decide this game. If he plays like garbage, then the Titans have a shot. But the reality is the Broncos defense, Zach Allen, DJ Jones, JFM, John Franklin Myers, Dre Greenlaw, Nick Bonito. I mean, I just think that there's so much here. The secondary is so good with Hufanga being added, Pat Surtain reigning defensive player of the year. This is kind of a nightmare, matchup for a rookie. So I'm going to say, 33-16, 33-17. I'm going to go with the Broncos over the Titans.
Yes, Jake, like you mentioned, it's going to be a nightmare matchup. It's going to be a nightmare matchup going against this Broncos defense. For me, Jake, when it comes to for the overall score, I got Broncos 30 to the Titans 10. You mentioned it, Dre Greenlaw. Like, that's just nightmare in itself. I know he got hurt in the championship game. He popped his Achilles. He was out most of the season last year. But Dre Greenlaw, Hufanga, and on the back end, I think that's going to be super scary for Ward. And when you think about the Titans, I think their coordinator when it comes to Nick Holz, right? I know he's been there. Well, was it last year? Was his first year? They got defensive coordinator Denard Wilson, who they were ranked second, I think, as a total defense, which is really great. I mean, I played under Denard. He was a defensive backs coach when I was at the Rams. But so he will hopefully get the football back to Cam Ward. That's the plus I see out of this is Denard's defense is going to get the football back for Cam Ward. They'll be able to figure that out. You got Jeffrey Simmons and Tavondre Sweat on that defensive line. So that's great for that Titans defense. But, Jake, will they be on the field for too long? That's the big question for the rest of this year. Will they be on the field too long? How much will we see of Cam Ward? So Nick Holz, he has a lot on his plate to make sure that Cam Ward can ascend that team to the next level. But going back to the Broncos, my guy, I mean, they're looking spooky in all the fantasy drafts and stuff like that. They have their defense ranked number 1. If you want to score some points for your fantasy football team, like, you got to take the Denver Broncos. And so I talked about it earlier, but Sean Payton going from the Saints to the Broncos. I know his first year he had a little trouble, but ever since then he's been climbing each week, each year. So it's been really cool to see. Offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi, defensive coordinator Vance Joseph. They're on a great trajectory right now. And so this Broncos team, they have a chance to make the playoffs again, which they did last year for the first time in who knows how long, right? I think the last time the Broncos went to the postseason was when they had our guy Manning. So yeah, it's been that long, right? I guess they played against the Panthers against Cam Newton. So there's been a long time since the Broncos have been good, but I think Sean Payton got them back on track, and they're playing at Mile High. They're playing in Denver, And so those guys in Tennessee, they've been battling the heat in Tennessee, but that altitude change is going to be a whole different ball game.
Oh, that's
when
awful.
I played against
for Cam.
Awful. It's going to be a long day, my guy. It's going to be a long day. He might have a welcome to the NFL moment in that game, but best of luck to him. But I do have the Broncos winning that one.
Yeah, and then next up is one of the games of the week. I have Seattle over the 49ers 21-20. I went back and forth on this game. It's really tough. But first off, Seattle's at home, right? I think there are a lot of people that haven't quite gotten over the fact that Sam Darnold, while yes, he struggled in the playoffs last year, was very, very good last year, would have led all of the NFC West quarterbacks in passing touchdowns and I believe yards. And he's not Jets Sam Darnold, and that's not just going to come out now that he's not with Kevin O'Connell anymore. I really like what Seattle did. I think they're solid all over the roster. How good is Cooper Kupp going to be? To me, that's just an add. That's just an addition. The offensive line's improved. They are relying on Jalen Sundell and Anthony Bradford. So we'll see how that goes, but it is improved. And then you look at the defense, and I think this is the crown jewel of the team. Just all top to bottom, they have a really, really well put together, crafted defense for a McDonald. And the last thing I'll say here is this: I think JSN is in for a breakout season. I think he is going to be a star this year. So I like Seattle. It's going to come down to the wire. And I understand some people would be like, well, I trust Brock Purdy more than I trust Sam Darnold in close games. And that's fair, but I think the 49ers are relying on too many variables. I mean, CMC is a big one. Does Trent Williams, how does he go? He was going to retire at one point. Now he's running it back. We'll see if he stays healthy and how good he's going to be. Jawan Jennings is dealing with an injury. Demarcus Robinson suspended. No Brandon Ayuk, right? The offensive line's okay, but they're relying on Ben Barch. They're relying on Colton McKivitz, Jake Brendel. I don't love the offensive line, and Seattle is not just an opponent. They are a force defensively. So I look at the defense for the 49ers. It's not as strong as years past. They do have Robert Saleh. For that reason, I will give them the benefit of the doubt. I think it'll be a close game. I'm going to take Seattle over the 49ers by 1 point, 21-20. So, yeah,
it's going to be a tight matchup. It's going to be a tight matchup, Jake. It's a division matchup. So I think at the end of the day, it's always going to be something that we have to pay attention to. It's going to be a battle of the offensive coordinators for both teams, right? Clay and Clint Kubiak, they're brothers. Their dad was Gary Kubiak. And so that's going to be a great matchup. Specifically, I think he's back to his former team. I know he got a little embarrassing when he left the Jets, and so I think he has his chance to find a head coaching job somewhere, and he's going to make a statement by this division game. So I have the 49ers winning this one against the Seahawks, although Sam Darnold used to play for the 49ers, Jake. And so it's going to be a shootout. I think Sam Darnold, he's going to be my offensive player of the week. I think from this game, even though they don't win this game, I think he'll be the offensive player of the week from this game just because he has a guy like Cooper Kupp to throw the football to. He has JSN. He has a good run game to protect him. So I like the 49ers to win this one, but I think Sam Darnold is going to come out and have that MVP caliber type of year like he had at the Vikings. So I got the 49ers beating the Seahawks 21-20. I like that close matchup, and it's nice. It's another division battle, right? Because Rams have been doing a great job in this division, but this is going to show who's going to be the second to the Rams. Is it still going to be the Seahawks, or can the 49ers figure out a way to win some football games? They lost a lot of their defenders, like you mentioned, to the Broncos in different places, but I think they'll reclaim their position in this division starting off the first week.
Yeah, and we move on to Detroit at Green Bay. We finally differed on a pick, so we'll see if this continues. This one I just keep going back and forth on. This is probably the hardest game for me to pick. I ended up going with the Packers here, 24-23 against the Lions. And it's so tough. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions win this division, if the Packers win it. These two teams are very, they're very close. They're different styles, but they're very close. I think the thing with the Packers is they're going to try to run more of that ground and pound style run game, right? Josh Jacobs. Whereas the Lions have that, but they can also implement, having a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, who's a flamethrower, so that's really the thing there. It differentiates them, but they both, do their own things. The Lions have a really good offense on paper, probably one of the best in the league. The offensive line has some new faces. That is going to create some interesting layers. They did, as I mentioned earlier, lost Kevin Zeitler, and they lost Frank Ragnow, I believe, to retirement. So, the defense is still stout up front. The linebackers are very good. They improved the secondary. The question is, how much of a loss is Ben Johnson, okay? And that is what we're going to find out over the course of the year. The Packers, for me, it's going out, paying Aaron Banks, going out, Sean Ryan, those two guys. I think they're a little bit of a question mark on the offensive line, but they added Matthew Golden, who I think is going to provide you a deep threat and also kind of an alpha male wide receiver one. They have guys that I like, but I think that he has a chance to be the guy, and they've been missing that since they, traded away Devontae Adams. Micah Parsons, huge pickup. I mean, blockbuster trade. I believe that Dog Reporter on Twitter reported it before anybody else. And then sure enough, he ends up being a Packer. So that person has sources that's running that account. But Cam, the big thing here is Jair Alexander is no longer on this team. I like both corners. I do. Keyshawn Nixon, and the guy they got from the Raiders, whose name is totally escaping me right now. But here's the thing, okay? Hobbs, Nate Hobbs.
Number 18, yeah.
Here's the thing, though. No Jair Alexander, no real replacement for him. I see CB2s, CB3s, guys I really like and would want on my team, but I don't see an alpha male CB1, and I feel like that is what they're missing. Now, did they just combat that by adding Parsons? Potentially, but I guess time will tell. That said, though, really close teams. I'm going to go with the Packers because they're at home, 24-23.
I like it, Jake. I'm going to go the Lions on this one, 20-16 over the Packers. What I will say is the coordinators for the Lions, I think it's a similar, we talked about this before we got on air. The coordinators for the Lions are in a similar situation that the Eagles had. They lost two of their coordinators, I think, when they lost in the Super Bowl. And then the following year, new coordinators ended up winning the Super Bowl. And so this year, the Lions losing Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, now both head coaches, one at the Bears and one at the Jets. But offensive coordinator now, John Morton. He was a senior offensive assistant beforehand, so they have him back there. And then Kelvin Shepard, he was a defensive coach before, but now the coordinator. So they have guys that were there prior to and kind of know the sauce and what the Lions had going on, but they're stepping into new. And so what is that going to look like? Aiden Hutchinson, how much is his number going to be called? Zadarius Smith, what does that look like for him? And then I'm excited to see what Jahmyr Gibbs and what that offense looks like. They have that Sonic and Knuckles 1-2 punch back there in the backfield. And then, when it comes to the quarterback position, what does that look like? How does Jared Goff do? Matt LaFleur was at the Rams when Jared Goff was there, when I was there as well. And so he's going up against his old coordinator, who's now the head coach of the Packers. And so can Jared Goff figure this out? Can he get this team over the hump? And I think they do. I think they double team, triple team Micah Parsons to make sure that he doesn't ruin the day for the Lions. And I think they keep him at bay in the running game and test out and see, hey, was Jerry Jones right? Can Micah Parsons stop the run? So I think the Lions test that out and run the ball right at him to see what they can do there. But I got the Lions getting the dub over the Packers.
And well, there we go. We have two that we've differentiated on. You picked the 49ers. I picked Seattle. You picked Detroit. I picked Green Bay. Now we got the Rams and Texans. This is an interesting game. Both teams saw their season unfortunately end in the divisional round of the playoffs. They lost a 9-point game to Kansas City, and the Rams, of course, fell 14 yards short of beating Philly. Very interesting. the Texans last year were dealing with a lot of injuries. Tank Dell goes down. Nico Collins goes down. CJ Stroud didn't really have much of an offensive line. So you would expect that they added a ton of help for CJ Stroud, obviously, because you want to protect your quarterback. You would be wrong. They really did not. The offensive line doesn't look great. Ariante Ursary is somebody that I like, and they're going to be relying on him. They have a nasty defense. Let's make this very clear. D'Amico Ryans, when going up against the Rams, is 4-1, just being a part of whatever team that the Rams were going up against when he was a coach, obviously with the 49ers. But here's the deal, okay? Nasty defense. Love like their pass rush, Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson. The offense has a lot going for it, right? Like a lot of talent. But the biggest issue with this team remains in the trenches. I don't think that they can stop Kyren Williams. They struggled to stop the run last year. I don't love the interior. I don't think they got that much better either in that regard. So I think that is going to be a problem. And really, aside from Sheldon Rankins, that is going to be a problem. He's like the only guy that I would really trust there. The offensive line is relying on some of the least talented players starting in a starting five in the league, okay? In my opinion, of course. Ursary, love the player. I don't know if he's ready to go week 1 against Jared Verse, but I love his overall upside. I've always been high on Ursary. That said, Laken Tomlinson is not good, okay? He is a backup depth piece veteran that was overpaid by the Jets. He is not one of the better guards in the league. That is a weak point. Then you have Jake Andrews, who literally is coming off a season-ending injury. He won the job, unproven. Ed Ingram, another guy who's just kind of a depth guy, not really a starter. And now he was supposed to be the backup, but then all sorts of stuff happened. Well, now Titus Howard has to move back after being moved from guard to tackle, back to guard. Now he has to go back to tackle. It just feels to me like there's a lot of stuff going here with the Texans. Cam Robinson is not playing, and that's a good thing for them because last time Jared Verse saw him, he gave up over 11 pressures. But here's the deal, okay? I don't like the trenches for the Texans. And the Rams, I look all across this roster, and I find a hard time, nitpicking this roster. I think, Nathan Landman is going to be huge for them. I love the secondary. I think it's very deep. I think the defensive line, as Albert Breer put it, is the best in the NFL or, at least one of the best. The offensive line looks great. The weapons are great. The running backs are great. Hell, they have one of the best quarterback rooms. There's just so much going for the Rams, and I think they're going to control this game, Cam. I got them 30-20. I know a lot of people have like kind of this being a close game and, really like low scoring. I think this is going to be like 2021 when Matthew Stafford on the second play of the game threw a bomb to Van Jefferson, and you knew in that moment they weren't playing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. I like the sound of that. Just from playing for the Rams, I like the sound of that. Jake, I know some people have the Texans win this game because of their defense, but I got the Rams 21-19 against the Texans. You talk about D'Amico Ryans knowing Sean McVay from playing at the 49ers. I think that's key, but I do believe, like you mentioned, that the Rams have way more weapons. Defensive line, one of the best defensive lines in the league. And then I would also argue to say that the wide receiver unit is one of the best wide receiver units in the NFL. And the reason why I say that, not only do they have Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua, but the people behind them, Jay, you got your Tutu Atwells, you got Konate Mumfield, you got guys that can step in and make plays. The only issue, Jake, that I see, and I've been talking about this during the preseason, is the Rams punt team in that special teams game. What does that look like? Because you got Evan, who is booming the football. He's flipping the field, but who's going to go down there and cover the returners? And so I hope that the Rams have figured that out during this offseason, these past 2 weeks that they had to figure out, hey, who's going to be our gunner? Who's going to be on our punt team to go down there and go tackle that returner? You get your guys like, your Chris Paul and your Sean Dolick, some of the rookie linebackers should go in there and play on that Rams punt team and cover those kicks. That's the only hole that I see for the Rams. But other than that, I see them coming out on top against the Texans. Nick Chubb as well. I don't know if we're talking about Nick Chubb a lot, but he's coming back from his injury. He's a workhorse, and so hopefully the Rams can stop him as well.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think the big thing for Nick Chubb is if he is, essentially he doesn't have all that left in the tank. Well, it's week 1, so you can get it all out right then and there, and that's going to help the Texans in this one. But with Joe Mixon out, they're going to rely on him. They're going to rely on Woody Marks, the rookie. I expect him to be utilized as a pass catcher out of the backfield, and Dare Agumbawale. That game, of course, is at 4:25 Eastern Time, 1:25 Pacific. We move on to the last 2 primetime games here. Bills-Ravens. This is a insane game. This is the game of the week, I would probably say. Both of these teams, this could decide, Cam, before we even realize it, this could decide who takes the number 1 seed in the AFC. I'm going to say the Bills win this. I think the Bills are going to the Super Bowl this year. So I'm going to take the Bills to win this one 21-17. I think it's going to be a really close game. Really good defenses on both sides. It's one of those things, like, I don't think you can go wrong picking either, but it is going to be a close game. I think the Ravens have a great offense. I'm not as high on the wide receivers, and I'm not high on Hopkins at this point in his career. They're relying a lot on Andrew Voorhees to replace Patrick McCarry on the offensive line. I think they look good aside from that, and then the defense looks really stout. Secondary is absolutely loaded, Cam, going out and getting Cheetah Awuzie and Jair Alexander in one offseason. That's something. Our Darius Washington's really good, and he's out currently, so he'll be back at some point. It's one of the better rosters in the sport. But then the Bills, they also have an incredibly crafted football team. I think the biggest issue with me that I have for them is Trey White starting at corner, who also is a former Raven. I think that's kind of a weaker starter for a team that I would expect to have a better starter at corner. But everything else I really like or love with this team. I love what they did with the wide receiver room, going out and getting Josh Palmer, going out and getting Gabe Davis, another reunion we were just talking about. I just think all in all, these teams are so evenly matched. I'm going to take the Bills at home here in this one.
Yeah, same here, Jake. I got Bills 30, Ravens 23. I'm excited to see the MVPs battle it out, Jake. Like you said, game of the week, maybe even the game of the year. I'm excited to see this one. Lamar Jackson didn't win the MVP last year, so I'm sure he's going to come with some heat this game. Don't forget Derrick Henry's back there. Mark Andrews has to make up for the drop in the end zone, right, to advance. And so I think that the Ravens are going to have they're going to show up this game, Jake. They're going to do a good job. But the Bills, I think, are going to put the most points, I think, in the NFL this year. I think Josh Allen, after winning the MVP, is going to carry that momentum. And like you mentioned, making the Super Bowl, is it their time? I think they have to make it to the next level, Jake, because they are so close. They have all the pieces that they need. They have to get over that hump. And so for Sean McDermott to hold that head coaching job, I think he needs to win and get to the Super Bowl this year. But James Cook, I'm glad that they re-signed him. They gave him the money that he needed. I know he sat out for a good while, but he has the money. Dalton Kincaid, can he take that next step, Jake? I know he's been top 10 tight end in the league. He's only in his first 2 years of the NFL, but can he take that next step? And what does that look like? I like that for Josh Kincaid. So I have the Bills winning this one as well at Highmark Stadium.
Final game, Cam. And then we'll just drop our 4 top performers and be out of here. Be on our merry way. Minnesota headed to Soldier Field. Doesn't quite have that ring when it's September football, but, Soldier Field, playing the Bears. Ben Johnson's debut. He's beaten the Vikings before with the Lions as the offensive coordinator. Well, he has a chance to do it again as a head football coach. And this is so fascinating to me because on one hand, you got a rookie head coach. On the other, you have a rookie quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, right? So we're going to find out who is J.J. McCarthy, right? Another reunion. Feels like we keep talking about these wide receivers. Adam Thielen, because I have no idea what Carolina was doing. I do know what the Vikings were doing. Thielen can ball, okay? Yeah. Jordan Addison is suspended to start the season. So you got Justin Jefferson paired up with Adam Thielen yet again, but it's J.J. McCarthy throwing the football. The offensive line looks really good, that he's working with there. The defense looks really good. And I will say this. There's a big issue with the Vikings. A lot of good things. Quarterback's a question mark, and you can throw on that secondary. Those corners you can throw on. So I think it is a beautiful matchup for Caleb Williams, for Ben Johnson. I think the offense looks really solid. I will say this. They're going to go as far as left tackle Braxton Jones out of Southern Utah takes them, okay? That is really what it comes down to. If he can protect Caleb Williams' blind side, I think we're talking a playoff caliber Bears team. The defense has some issues at cornerback. They're unproven at linebacker. Everything else I really like. Unproven doesn't mean bad. It just means unproven. We don't know. So I am going to take the Bears here. I'm going to take the Bears over the Vikings. I think Kevin O'Connell's outstanding. I think J.J. McCarthy is going to struggle this year. I do. So for that reason, I'm taking the Bears 31-24. I think Caleb Williams is going to go off against this secondary. I think we're really going to be saying, Tuesday morning, we're going to be like, wow, is Caleb Williams here? Has he finally arrived? So that's what I have. And by the way, I'm going to cut to the chase here, Cam. He's going to be one of my leading performers. I'm going to have him as my top quarterback this week.
Okay, nice. Caleb Williams getting the win, 22-19 over the Vikings. That's my prediction. Caleb Williams, Jake, he was so close last year. There were so many games that he won, and there were so many games that he lost by a slim margin. So I think Ben Johnson is going to get him over the hump. The Bears have been the bad news Bears for a good amount of time, and I think Ben Johnson will be the ingredient to turn that team over. And you mentioned J.J. McCarthy. He got hurt last year. This is his real first year in the NFL. He can make all the throws. He can do everything you need him to. He can do his kumbaya by the goalpost, before games, whatever he wants to do. But when you get to the NFL, it's real. It's the real deal. And until he has a full season healthy, Jake, it's hard to say what he's going to do. So I got the Bears winning this one over the Vikings 22-19.
I like it. So we only differed on 2 picks. How about that? We'll see what ends up happening. I mean, hey, this could be a nuke, and we could get half of them right. Yeah, that's just the way the NFL works. Week 1's always weird. The Saints scored 40 points, I believe, 3 games in a row last year. There you go. Who would have thought that? So to wrap it up here, Cam, I got leading performer at quarterback. I'm going to go with Caleb Williams, as I mentioned. The leading rusher, and this one was tough for me, but I'm actually going to go with Kyren Williams against the Houston defense. The Rams are going to be chomping at the bit. They're like, we just paid this guy. We heard all what you wanted to say about Kyren. Should he not get paid? Should he get paid? I think they're going to let it rip against a bad run defense, the Houston, I expect anyway. Wide receiver, I think it's going to be, and this one's tough, I'm actually going to go with Stephon Diggs of the Patriots. I think he's going to have a really good week this week, taking on the Raiders. And last but not least, defense. Man, I am going to go with Nick Bonito in that game. He smells blood in the water going against Cam Ward. Oh, man. Do you remember, a guy from, Syracuse, Chandler Jones had 5 sacks in a game?
Yeah.
I'm feeling that. I'm feeling Nick Bonito is going to bite, Cam Ward's head off in this one. And I'm rooting for Cam Ward. I have nothing against him. That is, you could not think of a worse matchup for a rookie. That is the most unbelievably difficult test for week 1.
Yeah, it's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long day for Cam Ward. But, hey, best of luck. He's going to be in Mile High, so I'm praying for him. So, Jake, for my leaders on the offensive side or the receiver side, Bucks versus Falcons game, rookie receiver Emeka Egbuka coming out of Ohio State. I got him as my leading receiver for this week. On the running back side, Lions versus Packers, Jahmyr Gibbs. I think they're going to run the football at Micah Parsons, and I think they're going to find some success. I know they have that 1-2 punch with him and Montgomery, but I got Jahmyr Gibbs as my running back to start things off. On the defensive side, I got Zaire Franklin, Dolphins versus the Colts. He's going to have to live up to the leading NFL tackler, Jake. And I think he's going to kick it off strong. When I saw him last, he was looking healthy, my brother. So I got Zaire Franklin leading on the defensive side. Texans versus Rams, Jared Verse. I know the Texans have great defenders, but the Rams do too. You mentioned Teron Armstead retiring. He mentioned Jared Verse was the reason why he retired. He didn't want to go against guys like that. So I got Jared Verse leading that. And then the Ball Hawks, Jake, on the defensive side, I got Patrick Surtain. I know he's the NFL defensive MVP, but I think he's going to find a lot of success against the Titans. You mentioned Cam Ward having a long day. Well, Patrick is going to make him want to put the football up, the cleats up, like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. And then on the offensive side, again, sorry, Jake, I'm going back to Sam Darnold being my quarterback that leads in passing. Like I mentioned last year, he was an MVP candidate. He went from the Vikings to the Seahawks. I think he's going to find some success. So I got Sam Darnold throwing that football all around his former team and finding success there.
Sounds like a plan, Cam. I think if anybody is looking for players to bet on and to pick up in fantasy, well, there you go. We just laid it out for you. Week 1, that's how it's going to go down. Of course, we'll find out if that's how it's going to go down. But we really appreciate you guys joining us in for the first episode of the season. We'll be back next Wednesday, same exact time, to preview Week 2.
Yes, sir. Much love, y'all.